So Toyota released the 2022 Tundra earlier this year or late last year in 2021, and I think you can say that it's had its share of shortcomings and disappointments. And I was waiting to do another video until we saw some more news on the 2023, and as we've seen it, I'm again disappointed because Toyota had an opportunity to fix a lot of the things that I think were wrong with this vehicle, and all they really did was introduce a new package called the SX package on the SR5, which involves some blacked out wheels and some other trim changes, but nothing of any substance. So let's go ahead and review what I think are the 5 things Toyota could have changed on this vehicle, but likely won't as long as people keep buying them with the current setup that they are. So the first and most obvious change that Toyota could have made is relative to the engine. They released that 3.4 liter twin turbo V6 plus or minus the hybrid, really an uninteresting engine and not one a lot of us really want. Many of us, like myself, love the V8, but there are other things Toyota could have done to really make this a more interesting vehicle for people, and certainly one I would have considered. And a change they could have made without having to do a complete update or redesign of the 2022 Tundra would have been to add the 3.3 liter diesel that they currently put into the LC300, the new Land Cruiser overseas. Now, Toyota's excuse has been, hey, we can't make that diesel engine work with the US EPA restrictions. I don't think that that's really accurate. I'm sure the bright engineers at Toyota could come up with a way to do that. And just think about it, a 3.3 liter diesel from Toyota in that new truck, that thing is putting out 300 horsepower and over 500 pound-feet of torque. It's rated at a roughly 26 miles per gallon combined. The second thing Toyota could have done for the 2023 model without having to come up with an entirely new platform is to change the rear gross axle weight rating. Now this one gets a little more complicated, and there are a bunch of the internet tow police out there liking to tell people about their payload right now, well, versus their tow capacity. And I've done some videos on that. I think what you really need to understand is when it comes to payload, you're still limited because you can only put so much weight on your front axle. And so whether you're loading things into the bed of your truck or whether you're loading up a travel trailer or some other trailer, that all theoretically wants to lift weight off the front end, especially when you're loading the bed behind the rear axle. What happens is it kind of works like a fulcrum, like a teeter-totter would, and it shifts the weight from the front to the rear, and you're putting a lot more stress on the rear axle. Well, here's the problem. In the previous generation, the second generation Tundra, the rear axle gross weight rating was 4,150 pounds. In the new Tundra, it's only 3,860 pounds. Now that puts it right in line with the competitors, and I guess Toyota, they didn't just want to copy Ford's 3.5 liter V6 twin turbo. They also wanted to copy maybe their gross axle weight rating and say, hey, we don't need any more if they don't need any more. Problem is, again, it's not really helping out relative to your payload. And so while people think, hey, I got an increase in payload, I got 200 more pounds in my new truck than I had in my old truck, it just doesn't work that way. And so one of the other changes Toyota could have made was to go back to a bigger rear axle like what they had in the previous generation, in the second generation, like my 2018 Tundra. A third thing I'm really disappointed about with Toyota is their Tailgate and Bed Innovations. They really don't have any. The one thing they added, I guess, that they're calling an innovation is on the driver's side. It's the little bump of the license plate in case you're carrying something. Well, that's really not that helpful when people like General Motors and Ford have come up with these tailgates that have multiple components to them that lower in a very efficient way to allow you to get up into your vehicle. Even Ram has a new tailgate that opens with a split down the middle so that you can kind of get closer access to the bed of the truck and load things a little bit more easily. And they all have a way to at least step on the bumper, and certainly General Motors has a very innovative way of using their bumper to step up and get in. With the Tundra, unless you're paying for one of the upper level trims, unless it's the Platinum or the 1794, of course, without the off-road package, or the Capstone, you can't get a way to step up into the bed in order to get into your vehicle without purchasing something aftermarket. But it would have been a pretty easy thing for Toyota to put some sort of innovation either into the tailgate itself to make it easier to get into the bed, or to change that ridiculous bumper that they have on the back that you can't even step on to get into the bed, and use that change something about that, or add an aftermarket step and make that part of a standard package, just like the Nissan Titan does Toyota, so that we can get into it. But nope, they're not adding that as standard equipment as far as we can tell at this point. And it seems to me again like Toyota has missed the mark on this vehicle. Now, the fourth thing Toyota could have changed, in my opinion, is their infotainment system. There are plenty of videos out there with actual owners of this system talking about how, fidgety this thing is, how it wants to cut out whether you're plugged in directly wired or you're Bluetooth to the unit. It wants to cut out. It also comes with a subscription, which, let's face it, everybody who's asking for a subscription now, it just turns your customers off. Just charge us the price for the thing. Make it all work 100%. Don't nickel and dime us and, have these a la carte features to your vehicle. Sell the vehicle. Sell it with all the features, Toyota. Making your navigation a subscription is just ridiculous when there are so many other navigation opportunities out there. And then when you combine that with the fact that, sure, you can use it with your Android phone or your Apple iPhone, and you can download Google Maps or Waze or whatever you prefer to use. But the problem is it cuts out all the time. So now you're almost forcing people into purchasing your system and paying a subscription price for it. I just think this is ridiculous. It's something you could have corrected. I hope Toyota corrects this in the future, and I hope they let their customers know they care enough about them that they're going to take care of this issue. And so my final thing, my fifth thing that Toyota could have fixed without having to completely retool this truck is the rear gearing. Now, there are going to be a number of people out there that try to tell me that the final rear gear doesn't matter anymore, and that having a 3.21 is just fine because with 10 gears, you can disperse them. Well, if that were true, Ford does that. Ford has a lower gear vehicle, but you know what Ford does? And I'm sorry, I think the Tundra is 3.31. I said 3.21. But you know what? And Ford also has a 3.31. But you know what Ford does with theirs? If you want the tow package, they up it to 3.73 because they know people are going to tow or haul a lot. That improved final rear gear makes the truck a lot more efficient for what they're doing when they're doing that in a much more capable vehicle. Toyota, you could have done a 3.73. Heck, even General Motors goes from their 3.21 to a 3.42, and Ram goes from, I think it's a 3.21 or a 3.23 up to a 3.92 if you want to tow. So in trying to keep up with the competition, Toyota, you really needed to offer something else. You needed to have more than just one answer for that vehicle. Similarly to the engine, I think you needed to have more than just one answer for an engine choice. Now, maybe at some point Toyota will change these things when people start buying every one of these things up. If you've got one now, I would try to sell it while it's hot and hope that someday Toyota ups the ante a little bit and tries to come out with something that's a little bit more competitive relative to the marketplace in their future vehicles. If you like this video, feel free to hit like, feel free to hit subscribe, feel free to comment. Let me know where you think I'm right or where you think I'm wrong. I'd be interested in hearing people's opinions on this, and thank you for watching.